Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Heavy Arrow versus Light Arrow, the most controversial subject on the internet today, and tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, probably. All right, I have my take on this because I have a lot of different weights of arrows, different lengths of arrows, obviously, because I have 5 different bows too, and the majority of my bows are all 28 inch is what I draw, so I have arrows that are 28.5 inch shaft to shaft. I have a bow that is maxed at 27 inch, so it uses 27.5 inch shaft to shaft cut arrows. Now I get them shaft to shaft because I get that little bit of extra, which I need past the riser, and I get a little more extra because of the throat of the nock and the tip, making my arrows completely safe, even with a fully opened solid broadhead or mechanical system. I am in no danger of losing a finger or having other mishaps happen that could be very dangerous, okay? So this is why you need a 1/2 inch to 1 inch past the front of your riser. Anyways, so with that all being said and done, we're going to talk about light and heavy arrows and why they are better than light arrows, okay? This is 520 grains total weight, okay? And it has a really good balancing point too, where we have pretty much almost the equal amount of arrow on each side. We're just a little bit longer at the back side, okay? That's a good balancing point for an arrow, okay? So it makes up the majority of its extra weight from the full body wrap, okay? Which is to its benefit, because if we were to take this wrap and put that extra up here, our balancing point would be quite different, okay? So, and that's another thing we're going to show you too. Here's another arrow that's pure carbon. Now, this one here weighs about 360 grain, and if we look for its balancing point, it's going to have way more out the back than it's going to have up the front, okay? So if we add more front weight, that's going to make that more heavier, which is going to mean this is going to have to move, which means this has less weight here, so that this thing balances out. Now the problem I have with FOC, or front of center weight, is the fact that it is highly more susceptible to being pushed the wrong ways in the wind. So if you're shooting in a bit of wind, you have a higher probability of all this crap going on, which you don't want. Okay, you also have the fact that when it does spin, because arrows spin and they flex a bit as they fly too, you're going to get more of this going on because you have so little weight here, and the wind is going to be pushing that at the same time, and it's going to cause a lot of issues for you. This is why I have a problem with FOC, where I don't have so much of a problem here because this is more equally balanced, which means it's going to have a much lesser pitch to it as it's going, and of course the wobble is going to be changed as well, and that means a more straighter performing arrow, okay? And the less likelihood you're going to experience any kind of knockoffs left, right, up, or down, and you're going to have a more precise flight, better arc too, even in the wind. Anyway, but where the main battle of this is not that. It's more of the heavier the arrow, the more energy it can create, which is very true. Now, my PSE Stinger 3G is what I use these on, okay? And it is set currently to 58 pounds of draw weight, okay? And with that, I'm achieving 199 feet per second out of these 520 grain arrows. That gives me 45.74 foot-pounds of total energy. Now, a heavier arrow does create a lot more energy at a slower speed. It does do that, okay? It also retains that energy a lot longer across a greater distance, okay? Which also means it's going to also create better accuracy at a longer distance too. You're not going to be so subject to any of the laws of the universe so much with a heavier arrow as you do with a lighter arrow. With the lighter arrow, yes, you will run faster. okay? But you will lose energy faster. It is also not going to produce the same amount of energy until you can get to a specified speed in which you would be equal to this. But even at the same ranges, this is not going to perform the same way, okay? Whether it's in a windy situation or not, you will lose energy faster. You have less accuracy at a longer distance with a lighter arrow. That is a fact. This is a projectile law of physics that is irrefutable. I've experimented over the years with many different types and shapes and styles of pellets, their weights, different power plants in guns, different way of modifying the power plants in those guns to achieve said results. Now, my own personal guns, I always keep them under 500 feet per second because that's the law. Unless you want to get yourself a PAL, then you can do whatever you want. But I don't have a PAL, so even though I do buy a lot of air guns that are rated at under 500 because I don't need a license, some of them are pretty damn pathetic in their performance, so I increase their performance with a factory weighted pellet that's normal for that gun, and then I alter the gun to go closer to 500 feet per second with said pellet, okay? This way I stay out of trouble, okay? Then I can use a heavier weighted pellet, which will slow the gun down a little bit, okay? But I will get more energy. I'll get more impact out of the deal, okay? And that's what I'm after. Even if it's 1 extra pound, that 1 extra pound is a big difference on the distance I'm shooting, how the wind is going to affect that pellet. Because like arrows, even pellets, they lob spin and they fly on an arc the same way an arrow does, okay? And an arrow, when it's in flight, it kind of does a bit of flexy stuff, but it also tends to do a bit of this, and it flies on an arc. Now, how steep that arc is depends on how close you're shooting. The closer you are, the lesser the arc. The further away you are, the more that arc increases. And guns are exactly the same freaking way. Anything that shoots a projectile has to deal with the laws of physics that are not screwable with. You cannot screw with them. You cannot make things to do differently than what the laws of physics say they do at said ranges, said weights, said speeds, etc. It's something that is just written in stone we can't get away from, okay? So, heavier is better, yes, but only to a certain point. And keep in mind with bows too, I'm at 58 pounds right now, which I'm pretty comfortable shooting at 58 pounds. I tried 62 the other day and I kind of hurt myself a little bit. Extra 4 pounds was a lot, okay, when it stacks up. So, but my bow goes to 70, but for every incremental increase, my bow increases by 4 pounds per adjustment. 2 pounds per limb is what I get for one single turn. Now, if I want to go half turns, I could do, 1 pound per limb. I can do any combination, okay? It's going to have a different effect, okay? You get to play between your minimum amount of poundage that you can do at said draw length to the maximum, okay? And that's just the way it happens to go. Now, some bows are affected by draw length, others are not. You would get the same amount of poundage lower and upper regardless of draw length. Other bows are affected by draw length where, like for example, my Apprentice, its minimum is 20 pounds draw weight minimum. But that means that each limb must be turned out 3 times and you must be at 15-inch draw length, okay? You will get down to 20 pounds, but you will not get to 50 pounds on the top side at 15-inch. The only way to achieve 50 pounds out of that bow is you must have the limbs cranked in all the way and you must be at a 27-inch draw setting. That is the only way it works, okay? So it's a different bow, and so you have different ways that different bows seem to react, okay? Anyway, but speed and weight are something that you need to play with. When I go to adjust my bow from 58 pounds to 60 pounds, or 62 pounds in this case, I'm not going to get a lot of extra FPS on this heavy beast. I will increase a lot more FPS on a lighter beast, okay? The numbers change, but I still have the same problem, okay? The lighter arrow is not going to retain energy as long, which means it doesn't have the range capability with weight and accuracy, okay? So it's only good for a certain amount of range and still being accurate and still being able to have penetration, okay? Whereas a heavier arrow retains its energy longer, okay, at a slower speed. And that speed doesn't slow down as fast either because it has the weight behind it to keep it going, something that these lighter ones lack, okay? So I can shoot at a longer range, still have accuracy. I might get slower speeds even by the time I do hit the target, but I will still have a far, far more powerful impact at the longer range with this than I would with this. This, I guarantee you, I'm going to hit the bullseye, okay, where this, likely not, okay, depending upon the ranges. It varies, okay? It's all bunch of math and distance and all that jazz, okay? So, as an example, this is 360 grain. Now, without changing my velocity, I just changed the weight, okay? If I shot a 360 grain arrow and it came off at 199 feet per second, that's only 31.66 foot-pounds. That's a big dump from 520 grain. But if I bring that speed up to 244, I'm at 47.6 foot-pounds. But I'm not going to get a 44 feet per second increase because I dumped 160 grain. That's unrealistic expectation. Okay? Now, I might be able to see that if I was to, say, crank my limbs to 70 pounds, then I might see that kind of a 45 feet per second increase over these. But I'm still going to have the same problem. This is still going to get more range, but if I crank my limbs down to 70 pounds, I'm going to get more feet per second. Even if it's 10 or 15 feet per second, I'm still going to get more speed, which means I'm going to make more energy. Okay? So let's say I do get, say, 225. Okay, so 225 at 70 pounds at 520, I'm getting 58.47 foot-pounds. Okay, now 225 I think is pretty reasonable number in velocity if that's what I get. I would have to re-crony, which when I can pull back 70 pounds, enough to get a reading, I'll do it for you guys and I'll let you know how it worked out. But that's my rough guess. But right now I'm at 199 at 58 pounds. So, 58 to 70, that's only like, what, another 10, 12 pounds, basically, right? 12 pounds off. So, at 12 more pounds, I'm more likely going to see probably about 215, okay? That's still 53.39. That's still pretty reasonable for a bow that's rated for 314. And that's based upon the lightest arrow that they would shoot at 70 pounds with the particular spine as well. Because spine and weight and length, and it all counts, right? So the shorter the arrow is, the less it's going to weigh at any spine, okay? If you want to go for full spine weight to length, I mean a 32-inch arrow at a 500 spine will definitely flex a lot more than a 28.5-inch arrow, shaft to shaft cut, would at the same spine. It would flex less because it's shorter, it alters the spine, it stiffens it up, right? And so we technically alter. Now, I have shot these 500 spiners, okay, at 28.5-inch shaft to shaft at 62 pounds, and actually amazing results. No ill effects whatsoever. Now, my archery guy even figured that these arrows, I shouldn't be going past 60, technically, okay? But I've done 62. I'll do 70. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? Okay? The best thing that's going to happen is it's going to have even more horsepower, it's going to be more accurate, it's going to have more energy behind it, and it's still not a problem. Okay? Why should I drop to a 400? Why should I drop to a 350 just because the charts say that I probably should do that? The charts all say these are guidelines only. Every bow is going to react differently. Okay? And also reactions are also based upon length of arrow, because as you shorten an arrow, you change its spine. Okay? So the spine material, the diameter of the said spine is 500 spine. Now it's technically reacting like about a 350 to 400 spine, not just because of the length is shorter than a full-length arrow, it's also got a wrap on it, which makes it stiffer too, and adds weight. And it's evenly distributed weight on top of that, which is the best way to go in my opinion. Okay? So if you're going to dick around with FOC, have fun with it. Okay? I prefer the wrapped arrow because my experience in shooting in the wind, these things still land dead straight in my target. These things in the same wind will not always land dead straight on the target, okay? They will tend to move around a little bit because of the wind, because they're lighter. They are faster, they are lighter, but they also have less energy on impact too. They lose too much energy in flight, okay? And it's just the nature of the beast. So I would not hunt with a 360 grain arrow unless I'm going after like a turkey, okay? Or I'm going to go shoot a raccoon maybe, you know, because I don't need a whole lot of horsepower to kill a raccoon or a turkey. Legally, I have to have 40 pounds for a turkey though, okay? Same as deer, legally 40 pounds. Now that's in my province, my country of Canada. That's what they call for turkey, and for deer, 40-pound minimum. If I want to go bigger than that, then I've got to go for at least 50 pounds. So I don't even need 60 or 70 pounds to hunt anything I want in this country. Okay? It's just the way things are. So, but a heavier arrow is to your benefit. Yes. I believe, though, the heavier arrow should have a wrap on it, if anything, because of where your balance points end up without the wrap. You have too much less weight here that's going to get moved way too easy in the wind, where this gets more of a shove than it gets a rotational twist across, okay? That's just my experience. Now, this is what I've tested myself numerous times, numerous arrows, numerous bows, different bow weight length, the whole nine. This has been my findings of how I see things reacting. And we did do a test too with 100, 125, and 150 grain tips. And the biggest thing of that is, yeah, POI is definitely affected. Penetration is definitely going to be affected. So is, you know, everything else, right? And all we did was go an extra 25 to 50 grains above our normal 100, and we saw differences, okay? Be it major or minor, you know, I mean, we're only working at up to 150 grain. There's guys on the internet putting like 300 plus grains on the front of their arrows. And I think that's just absolutely insane, okay? But they're doing it. Now they may get some good results in a no-wind situation. But what happens once it gets windy? What's going to happen then? Probably my theory kicks in and my experience would kick in, okay? Because it's not just theory, it's been my experience on how these things work. Now, I will say too, you do got to watch your shaft spine. You don't want to go too flexible of a spine. So ideally, I think 500 spine is good from anywhere from about 30 pounds and up. I would say go 500 spine, okay? 30 to 60 pounds, 500 spine all the way. I've done 62 pounds with 500 spine. I will do 70, and we'll see what happens at 70. 70 may be the breaking point, and that's where I may drop to a 400 spine, which would easily get me to 70 pounds, okay? But I don't have a bow here that goes beyond 70, so we're limited on our testing capability there. But hopefully this information has helped you. And if you got any questions, they go down below, but I think I've pretty much covered it either way. But let me know what your experience has been. Have you messed around with this stuff with different lengths, different weights, etc., etc.? What have you seen as a difference from a no wind to a lightly windy day, etc., in your own arrows with playing with different weights and penetration results and all that? Because this sucker is still going to penetrate at a longer distance and stay more accurate than this will. That's a fact, okay? It may run slower than this one, but it's going to penetrate deeper, it's going to do it at a longer range, and it's going to stay on target much, much better at that longer range than this is going to, okay? That is fact, okay? And yeah, anyways, we could dedicate a whole video just shooting different weights of arrows through the same poundage and see what our results are too. That sounds like a good idea, actually. I'd give you another video to do for you guys on archery stuff. Let's play, and maybe we'll even fire a 700 spine out. Wonder how that's going to go. Anyways, till next time, see ya.